tomorrow, throngs of a vibrant and inclusive community will join the 34th Johannesburg Pride Month March, which will get underway at around 10 a.m. tomorrow morning from Wanderers Cricket Stadium and take a route around the Rosebank. This annual celebration of diversity, love and unity promises to be a day of solidarity and a pride for all. Kaye Ally is the chairperson of the Johannesburg Pride and now joins us virtually. Kaye, good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us. How do you feel at this point, considering that you have such a huge event that will be taking place tomorrow, and know that the stress that comes with putting all of these events together and also all of the artists that will be performing this year?
The stress levels are high. Thank you for asking.
The stress levels are high, but I'm sure there's a bit of excitement as well, also considering that it will be taking place. I think this is the first time that it's happening at the Wanderers Stadium.
Yes, it is. Well, we're in our era of elevation. We've always moved Pride around. We've adapted what we were doing. We want to give the LGBT community a sense of belonging, a sense of relevance. And by doing that, we also continuously re-look at what we do as a Pride organization and how we can give them an elevated experience.
Yeah. Are you able to gauge from the past 34 years of this Pride event and celebration taking place, what its contribution has been to this message around inclusivity and also the recognition of the LGBTQ plus community?
Look, I think we have come a long way. We have a lot of policies in place from a constitutional perspective, from a legislative perspective. There is elements that can protect the LGBT community. I think we have some work to do with regards to how it's implemented, and that's, I think, when the human element, the human-to-human connection comes in. There's always that personal beliefs that are projected, and I think if we can work on that, that has indicated to us that we have a fair bit of work to still do. But I think from a South African perspective, we are the role models in Africa. We are one of the role models globally. If you look at our Civil Union Act, it is one of the longest standing civil union acts in the world. Constitutionally, LGBT rights, sexual orientation, gender identity from a non-discriminatory perspective has been in our constitution from the inception of our democracy, which is light years away from even some of the first world countries. Yep. So there is a lot that has been done, but there's still some way to go.
Yeah, a lot that has been done, and also some of the challenges, I guess, that also come up is when you speak about gender identity, some that are also challenging the binary approach to gender identities and how corporates are supposed to respond to that. So
I think that the LGBTQ plus acronym is all inclusive. So it's lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgenders, gender non-conforming, queers. There's a wide spectrum, that's true. But we're also finding that corporates are becoming more accommodating. So you're seeing a lot more gender fluid water closets. You're seeing a lot more acceptance in terms of employment of the trans community. And there's always going to be, the negative that comes with the positive. But again, that is the human connection. You see some of the corporates, and especially in the ICT sector, which is where I come from, some of the multinationals have got, 25, 30, 40-year diversity policies. So they have been leading the way in terms of inclusivity. But I think, with all the changes that we as a community are going through, we are becoming more inclusive, we are becoming more tolerant, and because of that, the people around us are also adapting to how they accept us and allow us to be our true, authentic selves, not just in our homes, but in our workplace as well.
Yeah, strides that have been made, of course. I'm speaking about those multinationals. And one of the questions is, if you look at multinationals that will operate, let's say, for instance, in South Africa, that adheres to our constitutional values, that also identifies that our constitution says that you cannot discriminate based on gender, but the very same company that perhaps operates in Uganda, where you have laws where people who identify as gay could lose their lives, and this is by law. What do you think the South African government's response to that should be in terms of taking up a role, an activism role that says that here we're dealing with human rights? And know, for instance, the World Bank has said to Uganda that it will not be releasing any more money to Uganda because of this new legislation that they've put in place. The United States government has now been encouraging their citizens not to invest in Uganda as well.
100%. I think that the South African government needs to take the lead from an LGBT inclusivity perspective, given our constitution, given the stance from a legislative perspective, also given our position within the AU. We really need to become that game changer from a political perspective in Africa. We need to be leading the way to a more inclusive Africa. And because of what has happened in countries like Uganda, our march this year is dedicated to Uganda, but not just limited to Uganda, Africa. We are marching for the Africans that cannot march for themselves, because it's not just Uganda that needs to be addressed. Uganda is in the news. What we need to do is really look at the archaic policies across Africa, because 33 out of the 54 countries in Africa still have very discriminatory LGBT laws, and a lot of it has criminal or the death penalty still in place.
Well, there are those challenges that are on the African continent with other countries, but then internally in South Africa as well, we have our own challenges, legislatively at least. The legislation in the country says it recognizes queer people. However, though, you have the experiences of people such as Sbusiso Mbata, grade 6 learner from a school in Ekurhuleni, who committed suicide because his teacher told him to leave his gayism at the gate when he was being tormented by fellow learners. How should we approach this? Last year also, okay, we spoke about another learner in Soweto who also committed suicide because of how his teacher also approached this issue around homophobia.
100%. We have a lot of issues in terms of sensitizing people within the government, within government departments, but also making sure that our government has in their employ people that have the ability to be accepting, to be tolerant, to be judgmental free. We have had the issue not just in the school, so not with just the Department of Education, but I mean, we've had this issue previously with the Department of Home Affairs, where employees within the department refused to enact the civil union for gay marriages. And, you know, that did bring into play where we had to sit down with the department, form a task team, and sensitize people to say that it's your job. I think the Department of Education has some work to do, needs to address this teacher very harshly, but also going forward, we need to have some form of education for the teachers in terms of them being more tolerant, them being more accepting, and creating a safe space for all learners in our schools.
Okay, tomorrow is also about celebration, as you've indicated. Tell us about the program, some of the artists that we expect, and of course it is the big final. And I see that you have a program there, at least where you will be beaming the Rugby World Cup final as well. Tell us about the logistics around that.
So we build up for the march at Wanderers Cricket Stadium starting at 10 o'clock, gates open. It's a no barrier to entry event, which means there's no entrance fee. We want everyone that supports the LGBT community and everyone within the LGBT community to come out in their strides, support our initiative. We are an unfunded organization. We will leave Wanderers Cricket Stadium at 2 o'clock for the march, which will head to Rosebank and come back to the stadium. We anticipate that the march should end by about 3:30, at which stage we will kick into our after-party celebrations at the Wanderers Stadium. We've got big names courtesy of Coke Studio. We've got Kamo Mpela, we've got the Jägermeister Brass Cartel, we've got Miss Party, the Billionaires Kagiso. From a DJ perspective, that, you know, a lot of our community DJs form the biggest part of our lineup. And then we, you know, couple them with the two headliners that we have. We will, however, make an adjustment to our schedule, which we've announced on Tuesday. We went through the approval processes to get permission from MultiChoice to do a live streaming of the rugby finals. So our event program ended an hour early. We normally schedule from 10 to 10, but we're actually ending our entertainment at 9 o'clock, at which time we will cross over commentary and visuals to the rugby finals in France. We are hoping that we have a pleasant Pride, we have an incident-free Pride. We also wish the Boks all the best, and they're going to come home with the trophy.
Yeah, also considering last year at this time, we had that warning that came from the US Embassy about a terrorism. Well, anyway, Kaye, I hope that you're fit to enjoy the walk tomorrow. And also, will we be having floats at all?
So our parade about 10 years ago made the decision to become eco-friendly for two reasons. One, we don't want to pollute the environment more than it already is. And two, if we are saying we are going to take to the streets as an advocacy for human rights, we want everyone that is in the march to be on an equal footing. So we do not allow for floats. We want to go as individuals and show our solidarity together as a community, and we take to the streets in an equal manner.
Thank you so much.
And to talk about what happened last year, we ended up the evening with a hashtag where all the members of the LGBT community that attended were hashtagging themselves as We the Bombs. We the Bombshells. Beautifully dressed and ready to party.
Yeah.
So we are hoping for an incident-free event tomorrow, which we look like we're all on track for. Okay, perfect. All the best. Kaye Ally there is a prominent figure in the LGBTQ I+ community and also the chairperson of Johannesburg Pride.